Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Celebrating friendship, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi cheers India-UAE bond at Airline Modi event in Abu Dhabi. Will inaugurate the Babs Temple in Abu Dhabi today. Ahead of the NATO meet, US President Joe Biden condemns dangerous Trump NATO remarks, calls for Ukraine funding. Amid heavy rains and flooding, millions of Indonesians vote for a new president as the world's third largest democracy aspires to become a global economic powerhouse. Suspense in Pakistan ends. Former Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to be the candidate for Pakistan's prime ministership. Zardari calls for reconciliation. Energetic and jubilant chanting, lively traditional dances, all infused with a sense of pride in the Indian identity and encapsulated atmosphere of the Airline Modi event that was held in Dubai on Tuesday evening. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the members of the Indian diaspora in Abu Dhabi during the Airline Modi event. Prime Minister Modi, who is on a two-day visit to the United Arab Emirates, congratulated the members of the Indian diaspora for turning up in such a large number. Addressing the Indian diaspora at the Airline Modi event in Abu Dhabi, Prime Minister Modi said that India-UAE friendship is as strong in space as it is on land.
भारत यूएई की दोस्ती जितनी जमीन पर मजबूत है उतना ही उसका परचम अंतरिक्ष में भी लहरा रहा है। मैं इंटरनेशनल स्पेस स्टेशन में 6 महीने बिताने वाले पहले अमीरात के एस्ट्रोनॉट सुल्तान अल नयादी को भारत की तरफ से बधाई देता हूं। उन्होंने इंटरनेशनल योगा डे और इंडिपेंडेंस डे पर भारत को स्पेस से शुभकामनाएं भेजी। इसके लिए भी मैं उन्हें धन्यवाद देता हूं।
At the Airline Modi event in Abu Dhabi, Prime Minister Modi said that our relationship is that of talent, innovation and culture.
आज 21वीं सदी के इस तीसरे दशक में भारत और यूएई का रिश्ता एक अभूतपूर्व ऊंचाई पर पहुंच रहा है। हम एक दूसरे की प्रोग्रेस में पार्टनर हैं। हमारा रिश्ता टैलेंट का है, इनोवेशन का है, कल्चर का है। बीते समय में हमने हर दिशा में अपने संबंधों को नई ऊर्जा दी है। हम दोनों देश साथ मिलकर चले हैं, साथ मिलकर आगे बढ़े। आज यूएई भारत का तीसरा बड़ा ट्रेड पार्टनर है। आज यूएई 7वां बड़ा इन्वेस्टर है। हम दोनों देश ईज ऑफ लिविंग और ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस दोनों में बहुत अधिक सहयोग कर रहे हैं।
Lauding UPI, Prime Minister Modi said that UPI will be launched soon in UAE. With its launch, Indian diaspora will be able to easily transfer money back home.
के साथ अपने रुपे कार्ड स्टैक को शेयर किया है। इससे यूएई को अपना डोमेस्टिक कार्ड सिस्टम डेवलप करने में मदद मिली है। और जानते हैं, भारत के सहयोग से बने कार्ड सिस्टम का यूएई ने क्या नाम रखा है? यूएई ने नाम रखा है जीवन। कितना खूबसूरत नाम दिया है यूएई ने। जल्द ही यूएई में भी यूपीआई शुरू होने वाला है। इससे यूएई और भारतीय अकाउंट्स के बीच सीमलेस पेमेंट संभव हो पाएगी। इससे आप भारत में अपने परिवार के लोगों को और आसानी से पैसे भेज पाएंगे।
At the Alan Modi event in Abu Dhabi, Prime Minister Modi said, "Today, the goal of every Indian is to make India a developed country by 2047."
दुनिया का वो देश जिसकी अर्थव्यवस्था बहुत तेजी से आगे बढ़ रही है, वो देश कौन सा है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जो स्मार्टफोन डेटा कंज्यूम करने में नंबर 1 है? दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जो ग्लोबल फिनटेक एडॉप्शन रेट में नंबर 1 है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जहां सबसे ज्यादा मिल्क प्रोडक्शन होता है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जहां इंटरनेट यूजर्स के मामले में नंबर 2 पर है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जो दुनिया का दूसरा सबसे बड़ा मोबाइल मैन्युफैक्चरर है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जहां दुनिया का तीसरा सबसे बड़ा स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जो अपने पहले ही प्रयास में मंगल तक पहुंच गया? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जिसने चंद्रमा के साउथ पोल पर अपना झंडा गाड़ दिया है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो कौन सा देश है जो एक बार में 100 सैटेलाइट भेजने का रिकॉर्ड बना रहा है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो कौन सा देश है जिसने अपने दम पर 5G टेक्नोलॉजी विकसित करके सबसे तेज रोल आउट किया है? हमारा भारत। साथियों, भारत की उपलब्धि हर भारतीय की उपलब्धि है।
Our correspondent spoke to the Indian diaspora after the community event. Let's listen in.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the Alan Modi community event in Abu Dhabi, and we are joined in by a number of people from the diaspora who listened to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the joy was very evident in all the visuals that we saw at the community event. What's the message from Prime Minister Narendra Modi taking away home?
The message Modi ji has given is the UAE and India bond, which he has strongly given, And the most important line for today is, I am coming third time. This is guarantee of Mr. Modi.
We are so proud and so blessed that he could come here, and it really brings a lot of emotional support, and having a temple around here is the biggest thing which can happen to us.
We saw him for the first time in my life. I had a teary-eyed when I saw him, and I'm really blessed to see him today.
His words are like nothing less than magical. He is just the best Prime Minister I think any nation has ever had.
For the UAE, especially between UAE and India, the friendship and the progress, it's amazing, and it's all because of Mr. Narendra Modi.
You are doing really incredible thing for India, for the world. You are a world leader, not for India, you are world leader. People here are expressing their emotions, also expressing that how it was an experience of a lifetime to hear Prime Minister Narendra Modi live speaking here at the Alan Modi event in Abu Dhabi. With my colleague Ashwini Mishra and camera person Pramod Negi, this is Meghna Dev for DD India from Abu Dhabi.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to participate in the World Government Summit 2024 in Dubai on Wednesday. He will be the guest of honor and deliver the keynote address at the summit.
World Government Summit is some kind of a confluence of global leaders. I would say, in general, thought leaders.
Okay.
Whether it is political thought leaders or intellectual thought leaders, technical thought leaders, they all assemble here. The Prime Minister will be the guest of honor on the 14th of this month at the World Government Summit. The last time this honor was bestowed on him was in 2018.
Yes.
And perhaps he's the only world leader who has been guest of honor twice.
All right, DD India's correspondent, the Prime Minister's participation at the World Government Summit. Also, we know that he will be the only guest of honor who has been invited twice to speak at the forum. Help us understand how significant is it?
Well, good morning, Preeti. The World Government Summit have begun on the 12th of February, and today is the day of culmination. And perhaps it is indeed a significant respect that UAE has bestowed upon India. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been invited as the guest of honor. And as you rightly said, this is perhaps the only leader who has been invited for the second time. Remember, the relationship between UAE and India has been growing significantly over the last 7 to 8 years. Remember, this is the Prime Minister's 7th visit to the UAE, and this speaks volumes about how the relationship between both the countries have been growing. And yesterday we have seen visuals of how warmly Prime Minister Narendra Modi was welcomed by the President of the UAE. And also how the Prime Minister bestowed praises upon the president and the ruler of Abu Dhabi. So this in fact shows how the relationship, how the bond of both the leaders is just not diplomatic and diplomatic relationship. It's perhaps a personal relationship between both the countries. So the leaders of even Dubai have welcomed the Prime Minister. Yesterday we saw the Burj Khalifa being lit up in honor of the Prime Minister's visit to Dubai, which is today. So the World Government Summit is perhaps the culmination of thought leaders and global leaders from across different parts of the world. And this event is significant because it brings leaders, not just political leaders, but also thought leaders from across different aspects of life. For example, we saw just a few days back, in fact, on the 12th, the World Bank and IMF chief deliberating. We'll also have Sam Altman from the ChatGPT. So artificial intelligence, the future of mobility, sustainability, all these important aspects are dwelled upon in this World Government Summit here in Dubai. So given the fact that this forum is so important, that the Prime Minister has been given has been bestowed upon perhaps as the guest of honor to speak and deliver a keynote address today at around 12:20 to 12:30, which is the UAE time. So, this perhaps is a significant mark, another significant mark perhaps in the relationship between the UAE and India.
Yes, you're talking of the significant mark in the relationship between the two countries. Dibyendu, now this is the 7th visit of the Prime Minister to UAE, and through every visit we've seen him rekindle the spirits of the diaspora settled there. Help us understand how over the years has the relationship between the two countries evolved?
Well, Preeti, as you rightly said, this is the 7th visit, and perhaps this is the 5th visit in the last 1.5 years, if I'm not wrong, of the Prime Minister to the UAE. In fact, the Prime Minister also told this to the President of the UAE yesterday when they were having that bilateral. We saw visuals when Prime Minister said, the relationship between both the countries have grown so strong that I have visited your country for the 5th time in the last 1 year. So this is how the relationship between both the countries have been growing. And remember, there have been multiple agreements that have been signed in terms of trade cooperation, in terms of economic cooperation, emerging tech, renewable energy, also in the aerospace sector, in the artificial intelligence sector. So much cooperation and mutual agreements and MOUs are being signed between both the countries for cooperation. And most significantly, yesterday, you saw the Prime Minister also spoke about how Dubai, in fact, how UAE is going to adopt UPI, India's digital fintech sector, into the UAE. And this is in fact a significant mark, and perhaps this UAE will be the 4th country in the world after France, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and now UAE adopting India's UPI. So this also speaks about the growing relationship, and also the inauguration of the Hindu temple in UAE in itself speaks volumes about how the relationship has grown. This is the first Hindu temple which will be inaugurated today by the Prime Minister later in the day, and this of course marks a significant stride in the growth of the relationship of both the countries.
Yes, indeed. This will be an important engagement of the Prime Minister today in Abu Dhabi. You're there in Dubai, where the Prime Minister will be participating in the World Government Summit. Dibyendu, let us also get more from you as to what are the expectations or the excitement of the people there in Dubai, because yesterday we saw Meghna tell us about how people in Abu Dhabi are, feeling with the Prime Minister amidst them. You're there in Dubai. Let us get more from you as to what is the excitement palpable there in Dubai as well.
Well, Preeti, yes, of course, the Indian community in Dubai are equally excited as they were in Abu Dhabi. But let me tell you, in Dubai, it's more of a business engagement. It's more of a government engagement of the Prime Minister, and there is no such community engagement which is planned here. But having said this, I spoke to a couple of Indian diaspora in Dubai yesterday, and they will be attending. In fact, the business community of the Indian business community in Dubai will be attending the World Government Summit. And I have spoken to a couple of people. They are very excited to welcome the Prime Minister. They're very excited to speak to the Prime Minister. What I'm told, they will also be having a meeting with the Prime Minister. The Indian business community of Dubai will be meeting the Prime Minister. They will be holding some talks and discussions with the Prime Minister. So, of course, they are very excited. And I've also spoken to people from Dubai who had traveled to Abu Dhabi to experience and to attend the Ahlan Modi event. So, the Prime Minister's visit to the UAE is, there is a lot of excitement amongst the Indian diaspora here. And remember, the UAE has a large amount of Indian diaspora, and people from all the 7 Emirates had traveled to Abu Dhabi yesterday to listen to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and cheer for him at the Ahlan Modi event.
All right. Thank you so much, Dibyendu, for joining in with those details. So that was our correspondent, Dibyendu Mondal, telling us more about Prime Minister's participation at the World Government Summit today. And later in the day, the Prime Minister will inaugurate a Hindu temple in Abu Dhabi. Meghna Dev gets us a detailed report.
In the beautiful desert expanse of Abu Dhabi's Abu Muraikha district is this structure emerging from the sands. This structure is also now being known as the lotus in the desert because it's carved out of pink sandstone. Italian marbles and much more has been carved so that it gets this beautiful shape, and it's a testimony, it's a testament to timeless craftsmanship and obviously the Indian intricacy in terms of art, culture, tradition is all depicted on the walls of this beautiful Babs Hindu temple. So I will also take you inside to show you the intricacy of the art that's depicted inside the temples under the 7 spires that make this temple as beautiful as it meets the eye. We are inside the Babs Hindu temple, the highly anticipated temple where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be coming, and we'll be inaugurating it on 14th of February on his visit to UAE. To show you around, my camera person will pan for you and show you the beautiful visuals of this temple, the height, the depth and the intricacy of the art, craftsmanship, which is a testament to what India has to offer in terms of its crafts, timeless crafts that has been depicted here. We obviously see this beautiful structure. When generally people visit Abu Dhabi, this structure transcends them from the general Abu Dhabi in terms of luxury hotels, racing car arenas and much more, to beautiful spiritual place and everything that depicts Indian craftsmanship, Indian culture, Indian tradition and more. With my colleague Ashwini Mishra and camera person Pramod Negi, this is Meghna Dev for DD India from Abu Dhabi.
All right, the magnificent Babs Temple, the largest in West Asia, is now ready, and it sits like a lotus amidst the sand dunes. Prime Minister Modi will inaugurate the temple today. Meghna Dev spoke to Vishal Patel, a volunteer at the temple. Let's listen in.
We are inside the Babs Hindu temple, the highly anticipated temple where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be coming, and we'll be inaugurating it on 14th of February on his visit to UAE. Vishal, can you talk to us and tell us more on what are the preparations going around, and what we see is such a majestic view of this temple?
The culmination of what we've seen, the support that we've been given for this temple to be constructed has been phenomenal. And now we've seen everyone really working hard to see the culmination where our Guru Mahant Swami Maharaj is going to be here, and we're going to be joined by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and you can see there's a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement, and we're really proud to showcase the unity between the UAE and India. This is the first stone temple in the whole of the Middle East, and it's the largest temple in Western Asia. So to see such a magnificent temple, when you're really up close, it almost feels like you're actually in India. It's only when you go outside and you see the wider perimeter of the sand dunes and the palm trees, really hits home that you're actually in the middle of the UAE.
Many people have been telling us that the 7 spires are actually one of the special attractions, we can say, or one of the specialities of this temple. What do you have to say? Because we have been seeing that gods from different parts of India, their idols have been brought in here.
What makes it very unique is the way that it's been constructed. If you look at the 7 shikhars that you have here, the 7 spires, they actually pay homage to the UAE. They represent each of the 7 emirates. And that's for us to say thank you to the UAE, which is our home for many, many years, for giving this land. Now, within this temple, what differentiates it from many other temples that you find around the world is the unity and the harmony that you will see. We've got murtis coming from the north, south, east and west. We have murtis coming from Tirupati. So Tirupati Balaji's murti is as authentic because it's been provided by the Tirupati Trust. Similarly, when you go to Puri, the Jagannath Ji murti is coming from Puri itself. So it's as authentic as you would find. So every Indian, every Hindu, and even well-wishers who want to visit will have a taste of India when they come to this mandir.
Absolutely. So when we call it a spiritual sanctuary, it definitely stands ground on what it is being called. We obviously see this beautiful structure. When generally people visit Abu Dhabi, this structure transcends them from the general Abu Dhabi in terms of luxury hotels, racing car arenas and much more, to beautiful spiritual place and everything that depicts Indian craftsmanship, Indian culture, Indian tradition and more. With my colleague Ashwini Mishra and camera person Pramod Negi, this is Meghna Dev for DD India from Abu Dhabi.
The International Energy Agency could be getting a new member, and that is India. The government has signed a formal request to join the Energy Agency, and according to its chief, Fatih Birol, the accession process has now begun. Tony Waterman has more from Paris, where the IEA is hosting global energy and climate leaders for its annual ministerial meeting.
This is just the first step in what is likely to be a long process. The IEA right now is composed of 31 member countries, and for India to join the pack, it will have to meet certain criteria. It will need to have the equivalent of 90 days of energy on hand that the government could tap into if there is a global disruption to oil supply. It will need to have a plan in place to reduce oil consumption by up to 10%, and it will need laws to ensure all oil companies under its jurisdiction report information upon request. But the most immediate hurdle is perhaps a requirement that all IEA candidate countries also be members of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which India currently is not. So this could take a while, but for India, which has the largest population in the world and is one of the fastest growing economies in the world, this is a big step towards securing sustainable energy supplies. Becoming a member will give it access to world-class analysis and policy recommendations. Now, this request comes as global climate and energy leaders from around the world meet here in Paris for a two-day conference where they are taking stock of the latest developments in the oil and renewable markets. Among them, U.S. climate envoy John Kerry, who tried to allay concerns that a second Trump presidency could derail green energy development, saying the momentum can't be stopped, even if Trump makes good on his promise to pull out from the Paris Climate Accord and unleash the production of domestic energy, as Trump calls it. Tony Waterman in Paris, France, reporting for DD India.
India has been at the forefront of supporting action-oriented steps at level in response to climate change. India's permanent representative at the United Nations, Ruchira Kamboj, said that India will always be a champion for climate action and climate justice.
India will always be a champion for climate action and climate justice. We feel that climate change is interlinked with development matters and hence needs discussion in forums with universal participation. Choosing to place the issue of climate change in forums other than the UNFCCC, especially those where all members do not sit on an equal footing, may undermine the larger cause of securing equity and climate justice.
She added that India has been championing the cultivation, production and marketing of millets, bolstering food security.
There is also the need to look for more resilient and viable options to meet global food security needs. Anticipating precisely such challenges, India has been championing the cultivation, production and marketing of millets. Millets which are climate resilient and climate friendly crops for bolstering food security.
EPIC Foundation, in its unwavering commitment of making India a product nation and fostering high value-added manufacturing ecosystem in the country, launched the first designed in India AI-enabled indigenously manufactured education tablet. The tablets come embedded with unique features of repairability and upgradability. The tablet stands as a true testament of Prime Minister's commitment to Mission Life initiative. Elated at the launch of the tablet, Shri S. Krishnan, Secretary Mehti, said that it is a matter of great pride that we are launching an India-designed, India-inspired education tablet.
And to that extent, I think it's a matter of great pride that I'm here today at this event, and we are launching an India-designed, India-inspired educational tablet, which will be of great use to a vast majority of students in this country in the way that we get linked up, in the way that how they can actually move forward. And it would undoubtedly inspire not only those who are present in this room, but also a vast majority of our students and youth who are in this space to take up the mantra of designing and making things in India, and for the world.
Also present at the event was Rohit Kumar Singh, Secretary, Department of Consumer Affairs, who said that this innovative device not only aligns with the vision of Honorable Prime Minister's Mission Life regarding sustainability, but also empowers consumers to make eco-conscious choices.
Inspired by Mission Life, and we also work on circular economy with the Ministry of Environment, Forests, and when we dive deeper into it, we realize that for a circular economy to happen, it would take three to tango: the producer, the consumer, and the regulator.
The High Commission of India in Sri Lanka has announced scholarships for Sri Lankan students to promote cooperation in the education sector. The scholarships are being offered in the undergraduate, postgraduate and PhD levels in diverse subjects across 120 Indian universities. The selected scholars from Sri Lanka will receive full tuition fee for the entire duration of the course, in addition to hostel facilities, annual grant for books and stationery. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, NATO defense ministers to get together in Brussels to focus on bolstering support for Ukraine and increase in defense spending across the 31-member alliance. US forces say they have seen a reduction in Houthis' activity over the last 60 days. Marking the arrival of the Year of the Dragon, a glittering drone show features a 300-meter-long Chinese dragon in Dubai, UAE.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. A quick relook at the top stories once again. Celebrating friendship, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi cheers India-UAE bond at Alan Modi event in Abu Dhabi. Will inaugurate the Babs Temple in Abu Dhabi today. Ahead of the NATO meet, US President Joe Biden condemns dangerous Trump NATO remarks, calls for Ukraine funding. Amid heavy rains and flooding, millions of Indonesians vote for a new president as the world's third largest democracy aspires to become a global economic powerhouse. Suspense in Pakistan ends. Former Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to be candidate for Pakistan's prime ministership. Zardari calls for reconciliation. NATO defense ministers will meet in Brussels today with focus on bolstering support for Ukraine in the face of Russia's ongoing aggression. The discussions will also center on the potential rise in defense spending across the 31-member alliance. DD India's Ishan Garg reports from Brussels on the latest developments.
The defense ministers' meeting over 2 days is expected to set the stage for a NATO summit later in the year in Washington. On Wednesday, NATO members, along with representatives from 23 other nations, are expected to meet to discuss advancing more support to Ukraine. The 54-nation Ukraine Defense Contact Group, also known as the Ramstein Group, aims to aid Kyiv militarily. Though NATO hasn't sent troops to Ukraine, which is not a NATO member, it has helped Kyiv with training and equipment since Russia's full-scale invasion 2 years ago. This meeting is now crucial as intelligence agencies in Estonia are warning that Russia could double its military presence along the NATO border within the next decade. On Thursday, NATO ministers will meet for a second time. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, who was hospitalized due to a, quote, emergent bladder issue, isn't attending in person. He is expected to join virtually, though, as member nations mull over boosting spending on defense. The meeting of NATO defense ministers comes at a time when Ukraine is urging for more military aid, and concerns are growing in Europe about the US pulling away from the alliance if Donald Trump is elected as president later this year. European leaders say NATO is the backbone of the continent's defense architecture. But some are also calling for a European defense alliance, one that isn't reliant on the US. This comes after US presidential hopeful Donald Trump said the US should not support NATO countries that are not spending enough on their own military capabilities. Brushing aside these comments, NATO says member nations remain committed to each other's defense. Ashan Garg in Brussels, reporting for DD India.
President Joe Biden on Tuesday commented about NATO by his likely 2024 election opponent Donald Trump, calling them dangerous and un-American and saying they raised the stakes for the US Congress to approve new funding to support Ukraine. At the White House, Biden sharply rebuked Trump's comment made over the weekend, calling into question US willingness to support members of the Western Defense Alliance if they were attacked. Biden said Trump's comments made it more urgent that Congress pass this long-stalled funding request to support Ukraine's defense against Russia. Biden said failing to support Ukraine war funding would amount to support for Russian President Vladimir Putin, adding that his attacks may move beyond Ukraine's borders deeper into Europe.
The bill provides urgent funding for Ukraine so it can keep defending itself against Putin's vicious onslaught. We've all seen the terrible stories in recent weeks. Ukrainian soldiers out of artillery shells, Ukrainian units rationing rounds of ammunition to defend themselves, Ukrainian families worried that the next Russian strike will permanently plunge them into darkness or worse. This bipartisan bill sends a clear message to Ukrainians and to our partners and to our allies around the world. America can be trusted. America can be relied upon. And America stands up for freedom. We stand strong for our allies. We never bow down to anyone, and certainly not to Vladimir Putin.
Alejandro Mayorkas, the man in charge of governing America's borders, has become the first U.S. cabinet member to be impeached in nearly 150 years. Representatives in Congress's lower chamber, the House of Representatives, voted narrowly on Tuesday night to impeach the Secretary of Homeland Security. Republican Party lawmakers in the House allege Secretary Mayorkas is failing to stem the record flows of migrants across the U.S.-Mexico border. Our correspondent in Washington, Benji Hire, gets us the details.
Galvanized by what they see as a crisis on the southern border, Republicans have voted to impeach one of the Biden administration's most senior officials. The resolution in the House passing by just a single vote, 214 to 213. House Speaker Mike Johnson had been pushing this for weeks, calling Alejandro Mayorkas the greatest domestic threat to the safety of the American people. This is the second impeachment attempt. The first ended in a humiliating legislative defeat for Speaker Johnson, but this scraped through the chamber, which the Republicans hold only by a razor-thin margin. The White House is dismissing the impeachment drive as a stunt, a distraction. President Joe Biden, in a statement, slamming it as a blatant act of unconstitutional partnership that's targeted an honourable public servant. History, he goes on to say, will not look kindly on House Republicans who have to decide whether to join us, he says, to solve the problem or to keep playing politics with the border. Secretary Mayorkas insists he doesn't bear responsibility for the border situation, blaming it instead on a broken immigration system that Congress should fix. But a bill that included funding for border security as well as billions in foreign aid was blocked by Republican senators last week after it was criticised by former President Donald Trump, the Republicans' presumptive presidential nominee for this year's election. He won the presidency, of course, in 2016 with a pledge to build a wall on the Mexican border, claiming rapists were being sent across it. And he's recently been roundly condemned for calling immigrants vermin who are poisoning the blood of the country. Trump denies claims that his rhetoric mimics language used by the Nazis. Back to Mayorkas, well, his impeachment measure now goes to the Democrat Party-led Senate, where he'll likely be acquitted and therefore still in a job. Benji Hire in Washington, reporting for DD India.
State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that the United States is reviewing reports that Israel has harmed civilians in the war under a set of guidelines aimed at ensuring countries receiving U.S. arms conduct military operations in line with international humanitarian law on Tuesday.
We do seek to thoroughly assess reports of civilian harm by authorized recipients of U.S. provided defense articles around the world, including under the Civilian Harm Incident Response Guidance, the CHIRG. We can't comment on the specifics of ongoing reviews, but as we have said before, we are reviewing incidents in the current conflict according to the process set out in the CHIRG. That process is not intended to function as a rapid response mechanism. Rather, it is designed to systematically assess civilian harm incidents and develop appropriate policy responses to reduce the risk of such incidents occurring in the future and to drive partners to conduct military operations in accordance with international humanitarian law.
Further, Miller said that U.S. is exploring all available alternatives to sustain aid in Gaza, despite the possibility that Congress may pass legislation barring funding for United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees.
As you know, we have suspended our funding. I know other countries have done the same. I know we've done that in good faith because we think it's important to see the results of the investigation, and it's a legitimate thing for other countries to want to wait and see the results of the investigation and how UNRWA responds to that investigation as well. But of course, we are always looking at all available alternatives.
U.S. forces said that they have successfully protected 2,000 merchant vessels that have transited through the Red Sea. U.S. Navy Commander Mark Meigs said that the U.S. forces have seen a reduction in the Houthis' activity over the last 60 days. Houthi militants in Yemen have repeatedly launched drones and missiles against international commercial shipping since mid-November. The attacks have prompted several companies to halt Red Sea journeys and opt for a longer and more expensive route around Africa. The White House pressed the U.S. House of Representatives to move swiftly on the $95.34 billion aid package for Ukraine, Israel and Taiwan passed by the Senate on Tuesday.
I think today's a pretty optimistic sign that it got through the Senate. It sends messages, if we don't get this done, it sends messages not just to allies and partners, but to potential adversaries as well, that the United States can't be counted on, that we're not interested in being a leader on the world stage.
Ukraine Defense Minister Rustem Umerov and newly appointed Armed Forces Commander Alexander Syrsky discussed Kyiv's military plans for 2024 with the Supreme Commander of the NATO Armed Forces in Europe and the Commander of the Security Assistance Group of Ukraine, Umerov said on Tuesday. Colonel General Syrsky, who has led Ukraine's ground forces since 2019, was promoted to Commander of the Armed Forces last week as the war with Russia nears its third year. He replaced Valery Zeluzny. The parties also discussed Ukraine's need for more electronic warfare equipment to combat Russian drones and the importance of rotating the fighters on the front lines, Umerov added. Russia's parliament will vote on February 21st on suspending Moscow's OSCE participation. Vyacheslav Volodin, Speaker of the Russian Parliament Duma, announced on Tuesday. Volodin described the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly an organization absolutely lacking independence. The OSCE, which counts Ukraine, the US and Russia among its 57 members, is the successor to a Cold War-era organization for Soviet and Western powers to engage. Both chambers of the Russian Parliament, the Duma and the Federal Council, will vote simultaneously on suspending participation and on stopping Moscow's payments to the OSCE, Volodin added. North Korea fired multiple cruise missiles off its east coast on Wednesday, South Korea's military has said. However, no further information was available. The missile launch follows North Korea's recent multiple missile testing, escalating tensions in the Korean peninsula. Voting begins to choose not only a new president and vice president, but also parliamentary and local representatives in Indonesia. The presidency is being contested by the current defense minister, Prabowo Subianto, and two former governors, Anies Baswedan and Ganjar Pranowo. More than 200 million of the 270 million population are eligible to vote. About 20,000 national, provincial and district parliamentary posts will be contested by tens of thousands of candidates. Around 10,000 hopefuls from 18 political parties are running for the national parliament's 580 seats alone. Meanwhile, residents of the Demak Regency in central Java in Indonesia will not be voting for their next president in the nation's presidential election, as their polling stations and homes are submerged in floodwaters. Voting has been delayed for the residents of the sub-district and the surrounding villages, which are flooded, affecting at least 21,000 voters, according to the National Disaster Mitigation Agency. In Pakistan, former Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is set to retake his position as the next premier while leading a new coalition alliance formed between different parties after national elections last week returned a hung parliament. The Pakistan People's Party, that is PPP, announced its support to Sharif's party on Tuesday to form a minority government. This ended the stalemate after inconclusive elections in the nuclear-armed nation, leading to days of political unrest. Shehbaz Sharif belongs to his brother Nawaz Sharif's Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, that is PMLN, which is the largest recognized party with 80 seats, and PPP is second with 54. Together, the two parties have enough for a simple majority in the 264-seat legislature. The co-chairman of the PPP, former President Asif Ali Zardari, told a news conference that his party expects former Premier Imran Khan's PTI to be part of a reconciliation process.
हमने तय किया है कि हम आपस में मिल बैठ के हुकूमत बनाएंगे इंशाल्लाह रिकन्सिलिएशन भी करनी है और रिकन्सिलिएशन में पीटीआई भी शामिल है ये नहीं है कि हम चाहते हैं कि पीटीआई रिकन्सिलिएशन में ना आए वो भी आए हर पॉलिटिकल फोर्स रिकन्सिलिएशन में आए.
Even after the selection of Pakistan's Prime Minister, accusations of it being rigged were flowing. Several political parties and candidates have called for protest against the results. However, caretaker Prime Minister Anwarul Haq Kakar rejected the accusations. Hafiz Naeem ur Rahman, the head of the Karachi chapter of Party of Jamaat-e-Islami, announced his decision to resign from his provincial assembly seat due to electoral irregularities.
धांधली का लफ्ज़ बहुत छोटा है और यहाँ तो आरोज़ के नतीजे लिखे हुए नतीजे पढ़ के सुनाए गए हैं. मैं समझता हूँ कि ये पूरा जो जमहूरियत है उसके ऊपर हमला है और ये डाका है अवामी राय के ऊपर और ये हमारे आइन और कानून की खिलाफ वर्जी है और जो लोग भी इसके मुर्तकिब हैं उन्होंने पाकिस्तान के साथ अच्छा नहीं किया, जमहूरियत के साथ अच्छा नहीं किया. अवामी राय का एहतराम करना चाहिए, जो जीता है उससे जीतने दो, जो हारा है उसको हरा दो, किसी को इजाफी कोई चीज़ नहीं मिलनी चाहिए.
Up next, we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. Giraffe Flowers in Manchester, England, is preparing for Valentine's Day, but is concerned about Brexit trade barriers causing higher costs and delays. The company expects to sell 7,000 roses by February 14, but expects the price to rise to $62 next year due to post-Brexit customs changes on European goods. The Dutch flower export industry opposes border checks. A drone show featuring a 300 meters long Chinese dragon was performed above the Burj Al Arab in Dubai, in UAE, marking the arrival of the Year of the Dragon. Nearly 2,000 LED-lit drones form the dragon, which is the only mythical creature among the 12 Chinese zodiac animals and represents a totem of the Chinese nation. The performance lasted about 15 minutes, adding luster to the Chinese New Year celebrations in Dubai. A quick break ahead, but after the break on DD India News Hour, New York has been hit by the biggest snowstorm in at least 2 years, bringing everything at a standstill. Artificial intelligence is reshaping music industry. Technology was showcased at the recent California Trade Show. Mandhana jumps 2 places to become world number 4 in ICC Women's ODI batting rankings.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Swagat ahe to magnetic Maharashtra, the land of valor, dreams and wonders. A state that is a perfect blend of rich cultural heritage and modern cosmopolitan India. Its breathtaking beaches and luscious green Western Ghats are home to 4 UNESCO World Heritage Sites that attract innumerable tourists. Maharashtra is a state of vibrant cultures knitted together into a beautiful tapestry.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. Let's get to weather updates now. New York has been hit by the biggest snowstorm in at least 2 years. Public schools were closed and thousands of people in the U.S. Northeast lost power due to the storm. Hundreds of flights in, to and out of New York's airports were also cancelled due to the snow. William Denslow gets us more from New York.
Up until last month, it had been over 700 days since New York City recorded a measurable amount of snow. That makes this snowstorm somewhat unusual, at least in recent times, but this is far from unprecedented here in New York City in the northeast of the United States. In fact, if we cast our minds back just a few years, New York recorded over 25 inches of snow in a single storm. The message from officials is that they are certainly ready for this amount of snowfall that has fallen. The message from Mayor Eric Adams, he says the city is one of the best equipped in the nation to handle snowstorms like this. Gritting services were out in New York even before the snow started to come down to try and turn the roads like the one behind me, keeping it slick, yes, certainly somewhat unsafe, but at least free from big build-ups of snow. That is why officials took the step on Tuesday to cancel classes. New York is home to the largest public school system in the United States. Schooling was switched remotely. The reason Mayor Eric Adams says is to try and keep people off the streets as much as possible to allow the snowplows to do their job. Similar steps were taken across other cities, other municipalities across parts of the US Northeast on Tuesday as well for similar reasons. We also heard on Tuesday from the US National Weather Service warning that as well as the large amounts of snowfall expected across parts of the Northeast, they also warned residents about the potential for strong winds as well as episodes of coastal flooding too. In New York, I'm William Denslow reporting for DD India.
A landslide in eastern Turkey on Tuesday left 9 miners missing. A giant mound of soil, which authorities said had been processed for gold and piled on the hills, crumbled into the valley. Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya said that 400 search and rescue workers were looking for the missing miners. Artificial intelligence is reshaping many fields, including the music industry, which has started to use AI tools for many aspects of the production process. The technology features prominently at a recent music industry trade show in California, although ethical concerns still remain. Ira Spitzer gets us more.
Intelligence took center stage at the recent National Association of Music Merchants trade show that took place in Anaheim, California. A number of sessions at the event were devoted to the many ways in which the technology can be used, like assisting in music production or, in some cases, to actually create music on its own. One guitar maker at the event even showed off a guitar he'd built that was designed entirely by using AI prompts. Another recent high-profile use of AI was the Beatles releasing a new song last year by using AI-based technology to isolate John Lennon's voice from a 1978 demo recording. While there's excitement about that potential, there are also concerns about a number of issues. One of the major concerns is copyright. Last year, a song went viral on TikTok that sounded like a collaboration between the artists Bad Bunny and Justin Bieber. However, that turned out to be AI-generated, and the artists had nothing to do with it. While TikTok ultimately took the video down, the incident may be a glimpse into the type of battles we're likely to see. One thing seems to be clear: AI technology is here to stay and is only getting more powerful. That will likely open up even more possibilities for musicians, but also difficult questions about whether AI is making things better or whether it's bad news for musicians and the creative process in general. In San Francisco, Ira Spitzer for DD India.
Let's get you updates from the world of markets. Now, Asian shares tracked a negative lead from Wall Street on Wednesday, while the dollar and treasury yields jumped as traders pared back expectations for the pace and scale of the rate cuts by the Fed this year. The latest shift in rate expectations came after an upside surprise in the U.S. inflation on Tuesday, which showed the consumer price index rising 3.1% on an annual basis, above forecast for a 2.9% increase. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan fell 0.8% in early Asia trade and was headed for a fifth straight day of losses. S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures were trading near flat. On to sports updates now. In cricket, Indian opener Smriti Mandhana on Tuesday jumped 2 spots to become world number 4 in the ICC Women's ODI batting rankings. The 27-year-old from Mumbai surpassed South Africa's Laura Wolvaardt, who slumped to 5th position after a colourless show in the ODI series against Australia. England's Nats Zyver-Brunt, Sri Lanka's Chamari Athapattu and Australia's Bet Mooney occupied the top 3 positions in the batting chart, which has also skipper of India Harmanpreet Kaur at the 10th place. On to badminton now. India leads 1-0 as PV Sindhu comprehensively defeated Han Yu of China in straight games at the Asia Badminton Championship 2024 underway in Shah Alam, Malaysia. PV Sindhu defeated Han Yu in her comeback match 21-17. 21-15 to give India a 1-0 lead against China. The second match will be played between doubles pair of Tanisha Krasto Ashwini Monappa and Liu Shen Tan Ning. The return of the 2-time Olympic medalist PV Sindhu will significantly boost the team's strength. Also, India's men's team and its campaign will also kick off on Wednesday, where they will take on China in their opening encounter. All right, that's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us at in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.